Welcome to Color Me Conscious. We have more in common than difference. Our intention is to explore the intersectionality that unites us and build consciousness about the layers of oppression we all carry.
Color Me Conscious, where consciousness is at the forefront of the discussion about race. Hello, welcome.
Welcome to Color Me Conscious. I'm Mylika.
And I'm Myra.
And welcome to season 2. We are really excited to have you all with us for this ride.
Yep. Season 2, episode 1. And we thought, you know, it's a new year. We're recording from a new studio. But you have the same beautiful hosts and the same vibe, same intentions. So we thought now that we've had you guys as viewers and listeners for a while, we wanted to just share a little bit more about ourselves, in case you're wondering more about the hosts.
Yeah. So we've been friends since 2012.
7 years.
7 whole years.
Yep.
Yeah. So we actually met through a mutual acquaintance, someone she was with, someone that I worked with, and we actually became friends as a result.
Yes.
So, and you're welcome for that, by the way. Like, you guys are welcome for us becoming friends, because without that, you know, things wouldn't be where they are today.
Yep. And it started off on a green tip as well, because we met carpooling.
Hey, carpool. You need to find your carpool mate. If you drive anywhere and you don't have somebody else in your car, you're doing a disservice to the earth. You need to carpool more.
And a disservice to yourself. You save time carpooling.
Right, because we got to know each other and we had a lot of fun carpooling.
Yep.
Yeah, because we both live in the East Bay and drove into San Francisco. You were going to nursing school at the time.
I was in school.
I was working in San Francisco. That's how we met. So it's been 7 years we've been friends. And actually, in December of 2017 is when I got this amazing idea that I wanted to do a podcast. And so I put it out in the universe and I wanted to do it, but I'm bumped, my good friend Myra.
I've been talking about wanting to start a podcast. And so I was scrolling through Instagram and I see this post by Mylika, and I literally had already written out, like, I kind of do every year, like, my ideas, like, my goals for that year. And in 2016 is actually when I first had the idea of wanting to do a podcast. And I remember it was July 2016 when I wrote down my intention of wanting to start a podcast. And now that trips me out to think about it, because in that whole year, right, like from July 2016 to July 2017, now I realized our first episode of Color Me Conscious was actually released in July of 2017.
Yes.
So it took a whole year from when I intended to start a podcast to us actually starting it.
Right.
But it was your post on social media that made me think, you know what? I need a co-host, and why not co-host with a friend of mine that has so many, like, overlaps in what she's passionate about, what her interests are, what her wealth and knowledge base is. And
we had already had so many great discussions just kind of in the living room, right?
Exactly.
Like just over a cup of tea. We had so many amazing discussions, even debates too, right? Like differing opinions about stuff, but just really getting into the nitty-gritty of how do I feel about X and how do you feel about Y? And, you know, we have been jiving for a long time, and so we thought that wouldn't it be fun if we come up with a podcast idea? And so for the first 6 months of 2017, we put it together, and then we went live.
Oh wait,
launched.
no, you know what? We're in 2019. We need to reverse this whole thing.
Okay, back up.
So it must have been July 2017 that I was thinking about it.
Right.
In January 2018 is when you put the post.
Right.
And then we worked brainstorming, literally finding out every single detail that we could. I'm kind of like a type A personality, so I just went to like the research like spiral from hell of like every single micro detail of podcasting.
The internet
and
vortex.
Mylika was just like, Myra, do your thing.
I'm not gonna
do
stop
what you gotta do.
She's a more information is better type of person, and I'm a any information is good enough for me type of person. So I just kind of let her do her thing.
Right.
And it turned out that all that valuable research really served us really well.
True.
Because we were able to kind of get the website established, get episodes established. I mean, and then we learned as we went. And so now that we've completed a full season,
so we have our episodes published. It's bi-weekly from July of 2018 through December 2018. We took a little break. Now we're back with you guys in January 2019.
Yes, and if this is the first time that you're hearing from us, you can catch up on all of season 1 on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and now we're adding some video content, so you'll be able to catch up with us on YouTube pretty soon too.
Yeah, we are on YouTube. This will be posted on YouTube. We just have our last 2 episodes from season 1 on YouTube, but moving forward,
we're trying to have
every
episode
with our blog
on
as
YouTube.
well.
Yeah, so you can see our beautiful faces.
Yeah, you don't want to miss out on that, right? We're so annoying.
Not the one.
I love it.
But one of the great things that's really noteworthy is that since we launched on July 26, 2018, we have had a total of 867 downloads of our podcast. And
I am feeling myself on that. I'm loving it.
It's the little things.
It's awesome.
It's a big
awesome.
win.
It's amazing to know that there's people out there that are listening to our content that want to know what, these little voices have to say.
Yeah, and for us, it's been huge because we were looking into the demographics of that. 64% of the downloads are from iTunes. So, congratulations, Apple. And when we looked further into the geography of where our listeners are coming from, so it seems like mostly in the United States.
Which isn't really a surprise since we're in the Bay Area.
Right.
Also within the United States, I think probably California is the biggest.
Yeah, California's the biggest as far as the states. But as far as the countries, we also have listeners, now get this, in the UK, in Pakistan, in Australia, Sweden,
shout out,
Belgium, Germany, Canada,
hey,
Ireland,
my people,
your favorite people. She's part of the Irish diaspora. So it's a big deal. We're all over the world. And then when you look back in the United States, mostly, like I said, the viewers and the downloads are in California. But we also have shout outs to the states of Illinois, Alabama, Maryland, Ohio, and Montana. Just to name a few. There are several more, but I mean, we're trying to take this little baby movement and get as far as possible. And big shouts out to the cities of San Francisco, Sacramento, Chicago, Chi-Town, Washington D.C., Los Angeles, Montgomery, Alabama, and Columbus, Ohio.
Thank you.
Thank you for being high frequency listeners. We appreciate you.
We do.
Yeah, and honestly, back in January of 2018 when we started brainstorming, I had no idea that we would launch this quickly, that we would have this breadth and depth of listeners, right? So thank everyone who's listened, who's downloaded, who's cared at all about our podcast, because it really means a lot to us, and we work really hard on this. And thank you.
Aw, babe, give me a hug.
I love you too. So thank.
Left fast.
I know, right? So
you feel it.
So we're really happy about everything that we have accomplished, and I want to just encourage all of our listeners and viewers to also take a recap of your 2018. Now that we're in January 2019, take a recap of your 2018 and what really worked well for 2018 for you. What are your wishes for 2019? And honestly, for us, this podcast has been like a little brainchild, and we birthed it into a full-on baby.
Which I'm so proud of.
And
I'm so proud of my baby.
It's growing into a toddler.
Yes.
It's getting legs. And so I wanted to
It was a tadpole becoming a frog. It's getting legs. We're all over the place with our metaphors and analogies, but you kind of get it, right?
You get it.
I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I am wearing my Sunday hat. We're recording on a Sunday, and I'm wearing my Sunday hat. Let me know if you like it.
We can tag the creators somewhere, somehow. We can let people know who created this awesome hat.
I'm so curious. A patient of mine gifted it to me. Do you like the little, there's a cherry on top with the stuff and everything? I love it. I absolutely
Sunday fun
love
day.
it. Yep.
So, one of the things I wanted to touch on was kind of, as we move into 2019, what do we hope for our podcast for 2019? I mean, for me, my first wish for 2019 for the Color Be Conscious podcast is that we continue to grow our listenership so that we can continue to grow our podcast. And one way to do that is through sponsorships. And so my hope is that we can continue to grow our listening base so that we can maybe acquire some sponsorships and continue to expand our podcast and give you even more incredible content and even brighter discussions with incredible minds. So that's my hope for 2019 for the podcast.
I love it. I love it. My hope for 2019 for our podcast is just to kind of expand it to different things like And what I mean by that is that Color Me Conscious it's like our brainchild. And both you and I are these incredibly motivated and talented and multidimensional women. And I just believe that there are so many different ways that we can spread consciousness. And so I see Color Me Conscious expanding beyond a podcast as like a mindset and something that we want for other people to embrace and share as well. So I see like us doing things under the Color Me Conscious kind of ideology, but actually turning those into actionable things, like you know, whether it's going to be some sort of like community support group in our neighborhoods, or doing like women's support when it comes to being assaulted. Like I literally have so many ideas of different like training things that we can do, and ways that we can empower women. That is what Color Me Conscious is about, and I just want to just like
explode that out in a rainbow over the world so that everybody can have
a Rainbow Sunday of Color Me Conscious,
so that everybody can have a little bit of that.
Yes.
And everybody needs some. You need some in your life, whether you know it or not. So congratulations,
because we're delicious and nutritious.
And I like that you actually, it's a great segue. So I was thinking we could talk a little bit about how did we come up with the name Color Me Conscious, and what does that actually mean? Because that was a process.
It was a big process, guys. If you do any research into starting your own podcast, the title is extremely important. And we did not downplay the importance of this title. Like we literally met up, I want to say 4 or 5 times, where we just had brainstorming sessions, and then our Post-its on my wall in my bedroom, like so many different names for what this podcast might be. But what we wanted to do was really, I mean, the number one thing is like when you hear the title, we want you to know what we're about without us having to explain. And the term Color Me Conscious, I did a poll. I think I did a poll on my Instagram story, on my Snapchat stories. Like, when you hear this title, like, what do you think? And even just asking people in my day-to-day interactions, and people were like, oh, well, it sounds like maybe it's about race, you know? Maybe it's about, like, building consciousness about race in America. And I was just like, ding, 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 ding.
And so once the light bulb moment went off, and we found something that really resonated with people, Color Me Conscious was born.
Yes.
And it had a name, and then it grew little bitty legs. And then it just kept on growing from there.
And there's a tadpole swimming.
Love the tadpole metaphor.
I don't know why, but I'm looking at tadpoles right now.
It's a good thing. Tadpoles are delicious. They turn into frogs. It's great. Circle of life.
Yeah. So that is kind of like the brainchild. How did that come about? We went through a lot of different phases. I don't even remember all the different names, but I remember, actually, do you remember Adjust Your Crown? We wanted to do like queens adjust each other's crowns.
Yeah.
And like, let me adjust your crown.
Right. And,
right.
And then we had talked about Black Queen, White Queen.
Right.
That was
Black Girl, White Girl.
I know. We went too literal at first, so we decided to step back a little bit. And actually, that's where the value lies, honestly, when you think about what's going to resonate with people. And we hope that this resonates with you all. And so we're really, really grateful to even just be here speaking with you right now, speaking with each other, and continuing to express ourselves. Because the world that we live in right now is full of a lot of chaos.
Right.
Like a lot.
A lot.
Like a lot. Like I'm not sure if I want to bring more children into this world kind of amounts of chaos. Like it's scary, okay? But I think even within that chaos, I see an opportunity. There is an opportunity for growth. There's an opportunity for connection. There's an opportunity for engagement with people that are similar to you, people that are different from you. So I think that if you have a notion in your mind that you want to better yourself in any kind of way, or that you just want to be more in touch with other people, because even though we have all the social media, we're more disconnected from people interpersonally than we've ever been before. Even though we have all this technology that's supposed to connect us closer together, I mean, I feel more disconnected from people now than when I was a child, and we didn't have as much technology as we do now, honestly.
Isn't that ironic?
Right? And that's what it's supposed to do. But so we're using the technology that we have in order to try to connect with you and provide a little more consciousness for your everyday life. And so I hope that you enjoy our podcast.
Definitely. So in terms of like sharing just a little bit more about ourselves, there's a lot to be said.
Yeah.
We are some, like I said, some very like dynamic women. Do you want to start by saying a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so I am born and raised in the Bay Area here in California. Went to school up in Fairfield and then went to college over in Reno, Nevada, and then came back to California. Have a son. I have a little 9-year-old, my little baby boy. And, you know, to me, being a mother has been the catalyst for me forming my full adult identity. So it wasn't until I had a child that I could see other people in a different way. And there's something about having a child that helps you to see other people as the children they once were. So it's almost like once you have a child, it's like anybody could be your child. And you can see people in a more empathetic way. Just because I have so much love for this little baby person. And everybody that is in existence now was at one time a child. And we all go through our lives when we grow up into adults, and so anyone that comes into your life is, you know, a fully formed person, but they came with a backstory and they came with a childhood. And so for me, raising my son and as a single mother and watching him grow has actually helped me to form my adult identity and solidify a lot more about how I care about people, how I treat people, and the type of characteristics that I want to model for my son. So for me, I was able, having him was the catalyst to me, you know, figuring out what do I want to be in life. And, you know, you better go get you a job because you got this little mouth to feed, and you got a lot, I have a lot that I want to accomplish. But, you know, in college, I was the president of the Black Student Organization. I've always been active in diversity, equity, and inclusion works, and even in my current place of employment, I am the vice chair of the Black Caucus at UCSF. So for me, I mean, I don't know, you know, it takes a lot of work to do extracurricular activities on top of school when you're going to school, or on top of work and parenting a child. But for me, it means a lot, and it's given me experiences that I wouldn't get otherwise, and taught me valuable lessons that I probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And actually, this podcast is my next attempt at trying to take another step in activating myself and activating other people around the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, allyship, empathy, and accountability. So that's a little bit about me.
Does she just want to be like her?
Yeah, you can. You can.
Yeah.
So tell people a little bit about you, Myra.
Okay, well, I'm from San Diego, so SoCal.
Whoop, whoop.
Yep. And I've been out here in the Bay Area for over a decade now. I came up here for college, and I also got involved in leadership when I was in college. I was involved in the, like, what's it called, Associated Students, and so I started with different, like, leadership positions in Associated Students, and then also the California Faculty Association, which is the teachers union for the CSU system. So I went to San Francisco State University. So I was a union organizer and student activist, and I also ran for student body and did a variety of positions throughout the years that I was there, including student body president. And I learned a lot. I learned a ton during those times of being an activist, of being an organizer, of learning the ins and outs of, like, the system and navigating the system, and, you know, working within it, working from outside of it, and kind of just getting like a 360-degree view of things. And I will tell you that while my heart was calling me to continue to participate in social change, which is what I was all about in terms of activism and doing organizing, I got burnt out. Yeah. I got super burnt out because, I mean, the pay as an organizer, as an activist is not great. I was working in restaurants at the same time, you know, while I'm going to school full time. My grades suffered from it. And I just was exhausted. And so I realized that wasn't going to be sustainable for me. So I ended up taking a science class that I had failed because I needed it to graduate. And when I had gotten to that point that I had kind of stepped down from some of the activism and organizing roles, and I really applied myself in school, and I got an A in, like, this bio class that I had failed, and I was just like, holy crap, like,
you're capable.
I can do science. Nobody told me I could do science, but I can do science. I do. So that's where it started my new pathway, which was I decided to go into sciences heavy, and I decided to go into healthcare. I did all of my prerequisites at San Francisco City College, and then I went back to San Francisco State and became a nurse.
Yay!
So now I'm a registered nurse, and I am not as burnt out, even though nursing is really hard work.
Right.
I'm not as burnt out because, like, my livelihood is not based on this podcast. My livelihood is not based on the other, like, creative, like, outlets that I have right now, and the venues for me to find and express my voice and enact social change. Those get to be my passion projects, and I have my stability with my 9 to 5.
Right. And it means a lot. It means a lot to be able to have creative outlets.
Absolutely,
right?
and I do feel like one of the things that really brought me still to nursing, though, was the fact that, like, on a microcosm, like on a very, like, small level, like on a 1-to-1 person ratio, I am enacting change. I am bringing the exact same things we're talking about: empathy, accountability, allyship,
every day,
inclusion. Exactly. I bring those to the table in my day-to-day interactions with people, and I actually see a change. Like, I literally, physically see a change in people as a result of the interactions that I have with them, and that is, like, so rewarding. So
I mean, and that's so major, because every single person that you touch, every single patient, every single family member of a patient that you are able to provide exceptional care for, they can go back out into the world. And they can spread that love and pay it forward, right? So it's not just a little drop in the bucket. Like, it has a ripple effect. So we really want everybody to understand that and to know that every single thing that you do, every action that you take, whether it's positive or negative, has an effect and has a ripple effect. It could be a positive impact, or it could be a negative impact. And so part of the goal of Color Me Conscious is to have an extremely positive impact on the world.
yes.
Right? So if anything that we say, anything that we do helps to further that mission, then I'll say mission accomplished.
Yes. And if any of our viewers, any of our listeners are out there and they have an interest in healthcare and education, if they have any interest in
graduate medical
administration.
Healthcare administration and graduate medical education. I do work for a graduate medical education institution at UCSF. So honestly,
reach out to us. We are amazing resources.
I was a program administrator for a graduate medical education program for 7 years. So if you are interested in, you know, maybe going to medical school or learning more about what that process is like to go from, say, high school to being a full-on physician, and how long does it take, and what are the appropriate roads that you should go. I mean, not promoting myself as an advisor at all, but I have witnessed a large number of people move through the graduate medical education establishment, and so I would love to, you know, give any kind of advice that I can. I try to do as much as I can for people that I hear are interested in. Likewise, anyone interested in nursing. We've got a nurse here who went through the program. So,
and also in my leadership roles, I did establish programs like Project Connect at San Francisco State, which is like a book loan and youth mentoring program. Also a like mentor for like people to get into nursing school. So I have access to a lot of resources and would love to continue to help people. I love when people reach out and you know just have questions and want to get connected like that. And the reason that we would love to hear from you is because your feedback is so valuable. It gives us something to reflect on, things that we can learn from. Because if we look at this year, just this last 6 months, July to December 2018, I have learned so much from participating in this podcast as a co-host with you, Mylika. Like, honestly, like, this has taken on a life of its own in terms of this is just, I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired by putting my opinion out there, by sharing my voice, by thinking about the other things that, like, we already have a list of like 25 episode ideas, right? And like content just keeps on coming and coming and coming to us. Like when we were doing our brainstorming back in like March, April, May of 2018, and we had like our list of 25 episodes. Like it was like, well, where do we get started?
Right,
you know?
right.
And honestly, of all the episodes that we've already put out, we have I think, only touched on maybe like 5 out of like the 25 episode
Right.
ideas that we've had, just because, you know, we're keeping up with the times and we want to stay relevant. And so when new things come up, then that's kind of what we go for. And then we kind of just have this little reserve of additional ideas that, you know, we can, of course, like leap in on. But what I would say, it was really, Malika put the suggestion of going ahead and looking at how many viewers we've had, and like when I went to look at the numbers, before we even looked at the numbers, I was like, well, why do you want to do that? Like, why do you want to announce that? You know, like, but when we actually looked into it, like, it made me feel so incredibly proud of the fact that, like, these efforts that we're putting forward is having an impact, and that we have, you know, viewers like you that are watching, that are engaged, that are interested, that keep tuning back in, and
listeners that continue to download.
Right.
Because, like I was saying, if we did all this work and there were 0 downloads, or there were 0 people listening, that would be heartbreaking.
That would be a jagged pill to swallow for sure.
That would be some real truth that that you can't deny. But the fact that we have several hundred, almost 1,000 downloads, that means a lot.
It does.
There's a lot of weight with that. There's a lot of value with that, and we appreciate that.
And my hope and the lesson that I learned, because I mean, 800 is 867, right? That's great. 867 is great. Like, my goal for this next year would be to see that multiplied by 10, multiplied by 100. I want us to have 1 million viewers. You know, I want us to have 1 million subscribers. Right? That's what I want to happen.
Let it happen.
But I realize that the reality is, and I want to encourage all of our listeners the exact same thing, that like whenever you have a vision, whenever you start working towards your passion, like not everybody is going to understand your vision. Not everybody is going to hear your voice and like be down with it and support it and want to hear more. But the right people will, and as like you start that process of putting things forward, and then like it's like little by little you get more and more encouragement, and then it kind of gets this snowball effect. And the exact same thing happens. Like, I really, one of my goals and one of my hopes for this is to inspire you guys as listeners to also put out your voice. I want you guys to start making podcasts. I want you guys to start telling us, you know, come listen to my podcast. We decided to do it on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You know? Because if we're not inspiring you, then, you know, we're not doing our job.
No, we're not. And one of the biggest things for me, what I took away from 2018 was that you need to speak your dreams into existence. Anything that you feel as a goal, anything that you feel as is attainable, or maybe even feels impossible, but it's something that's a gift that's been given to you by a higher power. It's something that is unique to you. No one can tell your story like you. No one can share your opinions like you. And when you have something that's in your heart or something on the tip of your tongue, you need to speak it out. Speak your dreams into existence. That was my biggest takeaway. I spoke it out that I wanted to do the podcast. Lovely ears heard me, and then we took off running. So for me, that was the biggest takeaway. Anything that you want, you can have. You can manifest, and you can speak it into existence. So as we go into 2019, I hope that my goal is for us to cover topics about health equity, for us to cover topics about political equity, for us to cover diversity in the tech industry, and for us to talk more about inclusion in the music industry as well. I'm really interested in the music industry personally, and I think that there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between, you know, different factions of the entertainment industry and the political world that we live in, and the healthcare world too. So
absolutely.
So that's it for us today. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
Thank you for listening. And if we made you think and you'd like to continue the conversation, visit our website, www.colormeconsciouspodcast.com, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Color Me Conscious Podcast.